Hey, welcome everyone to the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Alex Beddoes. And this week, our good friend, we have Maarten Hoff on, environment artist at Ubisoft Massive. Dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man. Good to be here. This is exciting.
I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. I mean, you've been on the list. Back before I took a break from the podcast, I was like, oh shit, I wanted to get Maarten on. Because, I mean, me and you share an interest in photography, and I know you actually helped me out a lot early days. I was trying to figure out like cameras and equipment and what to do. You were a great source of information at the time. So I'm glad we finally managed to make this happen. Now, one of the big reasons I wanted to get you on, I wanted to get straight into this, because you've just dropped that basketball gym scene with a big crack through it, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's really good. You do a lot of personal work. You produce a lot of very high. It's not like you do a lot of work where like it's just the odd little thing here and now. I mean, you're producing full scenes at really high quality regularly, which is really impressive. What's this without it sounding rude? Why do you do it? Like, you know, from my perspective, like any personal project I touch, it's always like, okay, I need to learn something. That's all that matters, is learning something. That's my motivator. Like, what's your motivator for doing all this personal work?
Definitely also to learn stuff and get better at certain workflows. Because I think at work, we don't always get the chance to dabble in shaders or make textures all the time. And that's stuff I can do at home, which I think is a lot of fun to do. So definitely to learn more stuff. And besides that, I think it's also a lot of fun to do. And what I like about doing personal work is you can be your own tech artist, kind of. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So you can establish your own workflows and make your own standards and work along those lines.
Okay. And like, but is it a case of you're doing it because you enjoy doing it, or is there like, oh no, I need like, because early on in our careers, like when we're pre-industry, we're kind of thinking it's very obvious what to do, right? Like, oh, I need to learn trim sheets, or I need to learn tilables or level art or tech art or any of these sorts of things. Like, there's a checklist of what I need to do. Yeah. Once you establish in the industry, it's kind of like, all right, what do I do now? So like, how are you choosing what to do? Like, because I mean, I know you do a lot of these really cool, like post-apocalyptic kind of scenes. But aside from like the subject matter, what is it like? Why is it you're doing it? Like, what is it you want to get out of the other end of it? Is this development, or is it purely just I'm enjoying this? Like, I enjoy making this art, and that's kind of like why I do it. Because it's different for every single person, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the why do I do it? Yeah, I think mostly because I really find it fun to do. Otherwise, I couldn't motivate myself to do it that much. Mm-hmm. And also, I think hard to say. That's a good question. Why do I do this kind of stuff? Let me think.
Because I mean, you know, a lot of people I speak to, whenever there's anybody who produces a lot of personal work, there's a very strong why I find behind a lot of it, and I think a lot of people who struggle to produce a lot of personal work, there tends not to be much of a why. They just kind of like they have this. What's the word? They feel like they have an obligation to produce work, and then like that, so they feel like they need to do personal work with no real why. And I don't think that's the case for you. It feels like there's a very strong why behind what you do. You're not just doing it because you feel obligated to do it, right?
No, if that was the case, I don't think I would do it. No, and I think I wouldn't be as happy about to do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think mostly the why for me is that I think it's a lot of fun for me to do, and I think maybe eventually I want to go full freelance, and then having this kind of backlog of personal art and stuff that I now have on the marketplace is a really good way to start doing that, I think.
Yeah, you kind of go on.
Yeah. For me, also my portfolio is kind of my safety net. Does it make sense? If I ever wanted to move somewhere else or go anywhere, then I can just show my portfolio, and I think I have a pretty good chance of working at another studio then that way.
Yeah, like, but you put the effort in now, so that if the need ever arises, I think it's interesting thinking of it from a freelancer point of view. It's like, because I guess when you're doing studio work, like, and you're working with a freelance studio, it's like, well, how much of that's you? That's a team of X amount of people, however many people go into making a project. It's like, well, how much is actually you? Whereas I guess with your portfolio work, that's all of you. So it's like, look, I can do anything in this screen, I can do. You don't need to worry about like who did what or anything like that. It's like, this is all me. So that's a big influence for you.
Yeah. Also, when I look at artist portfolios, I always go to the personal work straight away instead of their studio work. Because I think, to me, that's much more telling about what the artists can do and what they like doing. That makes sense.
Do you ever feel like, and this is just purely speaking, I guess this is a taste thing, like I mentioned previously, you are very into that post-apocalyptic genre. There's a very definite mood to your work. Just speaking like from the perspective of, okay, look into the future, if you were to freelance or anything like that, do you ever worry that you're kind of pigeonholing yourself a little bit into like, okay, like this guy, if I ever need a post-apocalyptic work, I know who I got to go to. Can he do, I don't know, whatever it might be, sci-fi, like, I don't know, pick a genre. Does that ever enter your mind, or is it a case of, I'll just do what I like doing and take it or leave it? Like, how do you think about that when you're when we're coming from the mindset of one day I might want to be a freelancer, my portfolio like is kind of the shop front? Are you thinking I might need to do these other genres just to plug that gap? Do you ever think about that?
No, not really, actually. Now that you say it, maybe I should think about that. No, because I really just like doing that post-apocalyptic stuff, because I feel like I can put a lot of detail in that kind of stuff, which is kind of my style, I think. Like just cram it full of detail. And I like doing the overgrowth kind of stuff.
You've got an eye for, you have got an eye for like doing that aesthetic. And
I think you can do that in sci-fi too, but it's just not really my thing, I think.
I guess, if it's not your thing, you're right. I guess the only caveat would be the not so much to show the aesthetic, like not for the aesthetic reasons, but for the workflow reasons, I guess. Like, hey, we need somebody who can make a trim sheet and literally make an environment out of a couple of tilers and a trim sheet. I guess if you've got like lots of assets and post-apocalyptic and overgrowth, there is that element where someone might go, oh, okay, like we know what this guy can do. He's amazing at it, but that's what he's good at. If we're thinking from a business point of view, I guess like it's hard, right? Because it's his personal time. You got your full-time gig to do as well. So it's like you haven't really. I guess it's hard to find time to do stuff for the sake of doing, rather than just doing it because you want to do it, which is like a big challenge for it, I guess. Just talk me through the marketplace side of things as well, like. Just because it is interesting seeing you do a lot of marketplace stuff now with these assets. Do you think about that while planning the project? Are you thinking, okay, like this is a super asset heavy scene? There's gonna be a few of these materials, and this will make for like very useful marketplace pack, or is it a case of making a scene and then breaking it down after to say whether this will be suitable or not for the marketplace? Which comes first?
I think a bit of both. But I start a project with the intention to put it on the marketplace.
Right.
That's for sure. But I'm not looking at like, oh, how usable can I make this? Because the last thing I did for the challenge, I think that's not very usable in a production because it's not a modular pack.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of loose things that maybe don't fit together. But then that way, maybe other artists can look at it and learn from it. So I think there's still a market on the marketplace for that kind of stuff. But my other scene, for instance, the rural cabins.
Yes.
Yeah, I specifically designed that one to be used in the production. So it is all modular and it should all fit together and work together.
It's smart, really. Like if you can, it's also like it's monetizing your spare time, right? Like, oh, I've got like got my full-time gig and I've got like monetizing your spare time. It's a very smart move. I will give you that. Like, I've seen a couple of friends do this where like they make something and they sold the assets.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, this paid for XYZ. I was finally able to upgrade my PC. I could get a tablet I wanted. It's very
also pretty motivating. Oh, hard work. That's a good way
Oh
to
no, it
say
is,
it.
dude. It's nice
Yeah.
to see people being able to get some reward from like the hard work they put in. Because sometimes, you know, before marketplaces were accessible or like as accessible as they are now, it was make this beautiful scene which is super incredible, and then like you just
Yeah, and then it's
sits
in your hard
there.
disk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the hard drive, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a shame. It's nice seeing people being able to monetize their hard work.
Yeah.
It's nice to see. I love seeing it.
That's good. Yeah, and also it opens myself up to a lot of different kinds of thinking about your own work. Because when I build my scenes now, I really need to think about how is somebody going to use this, and everything needs to be streamlined and made with the same intention. For instance, master shaders needs to all have comments in there. They all need to make sense. It doesn't sound a lot of fun, but once you got it down and you can reuse all your stuff all the time for your projects, it really speeds up your process.
Well, I guess it keeps you in check, right? Like there's nowhere to hide because people are going to be able to dissect your stuff to the T. It's like, oh yeah, this better be right if I put it up there.
Plus, Epic is also going to look at it and they need to approve it to be on there, so it needs to be good.
Is it I guess you sell on the Epic Market, the Epic, what do you call it? The Epic Marketplace, the Epic Store. Is there a reason you only? Because if I'm right in saying you only sell on the Epic Store, don't you? You don't have anything on Gumroad or the ArtStation store. So is there a reason for that? Just because the project's on there? Do you ever consider like selling asset packs on Gumroad or on ArtStation?
Yeah, I did it for a while, I think, with my first scene, but then there was literally no sales there.
Okay.
Just kind of sad, but still. But yeah, it does make sense because when you buy it on the marketplace, it's in your say in your thing, and then it's in your Epic account. It's tied to you, so it's forever yours. And I think it makes a lot of sense to buy it on that place instead of an ArtStation.
It is super nice. I love the fact that like you can buy stuff on Epic, and it's like I have a scene or like I have a project, and it's like I've got this library down here, all the stuff you've bought, and you kind of go, I need a water shader. Oh, there's that really cool one now to add it to the project. It's very streamlined.
But I think if I ever decide to sell a Blender scenes, for instance, I would put it on those marketplace for sure.
Man, so let's talk about Blender for a second. I know you've been a Blender guy for a long time. Has it been nice for you to see like Blender blow up a little bit and the industry to take it far more seriously now than it did, say, like 5 years ago or even 3 years ago? Like, you can mention it in a studio. Like, if there's a studio which is traditionally a different software, and you go, oh, like, what about Blender? Or Blender does this. I think 5 years ago, like, AAA games might have laughed at you, but now it's like, oh, actually, yeah, that's a really viable option. Like, good point. It's been nice to see, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool to see. I think at this point we kind of laugh at if people come in and we use Maya. But I think that's still also used widely, but still.
Yeah, it's who's bottom of the pecking order now? I'd say Max is at the bottom of the pecking order now. Like they're the ones I see get memed on the most.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
At least Maya has like the animation and the UV tools. The UV tools in Maya is still pretty amazing, and God, it still breaks my heart that Blender hasn't got good UV tools. Not vanilla anyway. Vanilla Blender really needs to fix its UV tools. It's not good.
Yeah, I hope they do that. I think there's something on the roadmap about that. Not sure.
It's been on roadmap for years.
It has to be on there.
It's been on there for a long time. Ever since I think it's ever since UV Packmaster and UV Squares entered the store. Like I think they came out like 4 or 5 years ago. And I think it's been ever since then. It's been on the roadmap to like, hey, we really need to like get something like this, and they've just never done it. Given the fact that you've been in the industry for a while, you've been like training to be in the industry for a long time. Where did Blender come from for you? Like, it's not like Blender was super popular when you got into this. So why was Blender the one you went down as a route of you make like the software you kind of default to?
Yeah, I started in Maya actually. At school.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought you were Blender day one.
No. Maya day one.
Oh God, you poor soul.
Yeah. It was not too bad. I learned the first 3D things in Maya. Lots of menus and clicking, not a lot of shortcuts, but I got the job done. But then I did my internship at indie studio. And there was a technical artist there who was using a Blender. And he kind of showed us, look what you can do with it, how fast it is. And this was Blender 2.74, I think, 7.5 maybe. Yeah. But then still, even back then, the viewport of Blender I thought was better than Maya's. So that's why I started using it there. And then I just defaulted to Blender.
When did the real-time viewport come into Blender? Was that around 2.7?
No,
2.8?
Yeah.
That was one which was like big for me, like doing like look dev and being able to like set up basically my Unreal shader and I have a trim sheet and some tilers and I'm like, I'm seeing exactly what I get in the engine basically. It's like, all right, it all works, cool, let's send it over, I'm done. Like, it's nice.
Yeah, but back then there was this ambient occlusion option in the viewport, just screen space.
Oh, yeah.
It did a lot. And I think Maya also had the ambient occlusion option, but I think Blender looks better, or looked better back then. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the only thing Blender needs now, and it's the only thing which I still like Max for, because I still use Max from time to time for certain things, and it's the Edit Poly modifier is still like super powerful, and Blender needs to get that into their modifier stack. And their version of Smart Extrude is very, very nice. Like,
what does Edit Poly modifier do?
Like, you have a modifier stack, you put the modifier into Edit Poly, and you can like move geo around, and like if you turn that modifier off, you'll go back to the original where it was before. Is that beforehand?
Non-destructive that way.
Yes, extremely. It's the only thing that Blender doesn't really have. It's like that would be a reason for I think a lot of Max users is to uninstall Max there and then and switch to Blender. If they could get Edit Poly modifier, that's Max done. Max is dead. Like I don't see many good reasons to use Max after that. Like they have a nice Smart Extrude, but Blender has their own version. It's not quite as nice, but it's still, it's okay. But so like with Blender, and I'm going to ask this question because I'm just curious. Is there any like special add-ons or anything you use? Like, I mean, most people use the say the same things, so hard ops, UV Pack Master, the mesh machine and decal machine stuff. Like, they're all kind of like staple great add-ons for Blender. Is there any like particularly good ones like you're aware of that you use, or like people may not be aware of?
I'm opening Blender right now, so you can
see. Do you have the Empire theme? Do you have the Empire theme Blender?
I didn't know that existed, so I don't have it.
Oh, dude, get it!
Cool.
It's good. It's on the Notion for Dynasty. If you go to the Blender tutorials on the Dynasty Notion, there's an XML for like a Dynasty Empire themed
with all the colors
UI. It's nice. That's what I use.
I should get that. Yeah, but for the plugins, you already named one, the UV Backmaster. And then I also have this other UV thing. It's the UV Toolkit. You know that one?
No, I use UV Squares. I haven't seen UV Tool. I'm actually I'm shamelessly asking because I want it for myself. Like, people seem to just have these random little add-ons which are really, really good.
Yeah. The UV Toolkit is the UV Squares on steroids. So UV Squares didn't work for me anymore. I don't know why. Maybe I used the older version, so I got this. But you can even shift the UV islands to out of the 0-1 space. Pretty useful.
Oh, that's nice.
And it straightens a lot of stuff, and it has the texel density checkers in there.
Yeah, I have an add-on for texel density. I have an additional add-on for the texel density, but if it's built into this UV toolkit, I'm definitely going to pick that up. It was a really nice one I saw. The Ola from War Dog showed me. It was like you draw your splines out. Like if you're doing cables, you draw all your splines out where you want them, and then you press simulate, and it'll simulate physics, like really believable like cables and stuff. I forget. It collides, it does collide. If you set it up correctly, it'll collide with each other. So you'll have like cables like tangle and wrap around each other. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, so I'll have to put it in the description to the podcast because I don't have it myself. He showed me the video ages ago, and I'm like, I need to get that, and I just never haven't done any modeling where I had cables for a long time. I've never bothered to make it.
No, I want it.
So I want to backtrack a little bit to portfolios again because I mean, obviously you're one of the things I remember, like you catching my eye for your portfolio was the fact it was Blender. Like there's a lot of cycles. You did a cycle scene, which was really nice.
Trying to see what that.
I think it was your storefront one, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but with your portfolio, you also take part a lot in art station challenges. You've won a couple. You've done very well with them. And as I said before, people have different reasons for doing things, right? Like, and again, art station challenges for students, they're really good. They give them like a framework to work in and some boundaries, and it's like a very good little thing for them. What is it you do like the challenges for? Like, is there like, do you just enjoy the challenge, like of making art with some boundaries? Like, what's your motivator to do them sort of challenges?
Yeah, definitely that there's a set theme for a challenge. And for the art station challenge, there's even concept art you can use, which is really cool, I think.
Well, that is nice.
Yeah, but for the latest challenge, just the theme just really spoke to me, and I already was planning to do another post-apocalyptic scene because that's kind of what I do. And then this challenge came along. I was like, this should be fun to join.
Yeah.
Because also the thing is, you're not alone in it, and it's cool to be in the Discord and see what other people are making.
What if, just out of curiosity, for another art station challenge, what would be like? So you're not allowed post-apocalyptic. That's the only one you're not allowed. What would be a good theme for you to? What would you like to see, like, or like to tackle for the next art station challenge?
We already had all the themes I liked. I was going to say Japanese, maybe. But I think we already had something like that.
Yeah, we had feudal Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm at home. I'm working on a Wild West scene now. But there's already had that theme already. So maybe 50s. That would be cool.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Architecture and cars and stuff like that.
I like to go. I think it'd be cool to see like people's take on World War as well. Like pick a World War and go like or Vietnam War or like World War II.
Yeah.
There's plenty to choose from. Like humanity isn't the greatest thing. Like pick a war, have a go. But I think if war was the overarching theme, I think it's quite broad then, right? Because people could choose an era. They wanted to do like the American Civil War, which is like 1800s.
Yeah,
I think that could be very interesting. And then like you've got obviously the World Wars, you've got like Vietnam Wars, even if you want to go modern like with the Iraqi wars and stuff like that. I think you've got some very broad, I mean even space, I guess. Star Wars. You've got like a wide range there. It's an interesting thing to think about with people, right? Like what themes would be interesting and where like you give a lot of broad, because that's what I like about the challenges is when I see a variety. I think that's why feudal Japan was very interesting for me because I saw some really interesting takes. Like there wasn't much that was too samey. And as well, what was the one I think you placed? I think it might have been second place. The Western Town.
That was second place. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a great theme because again you got to see a real wide range. I know a good theme, Chernobyl. I'd love to see what people do. I've just seen that Stalker trailer. Oh, dude, it'd be great. I've just seen Stalker trailer, so I'm all for that. I rewatched Chernobyl recently. I'm like,
such a good series.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Before I get too pretentious with like cinematography and all that sort of stuff,
I was just gonna say the cinematography in that series is fucking good, and the lighting and stuff.
Dude, the best scene in that whole thing is still the Geiger counters when the guys have to go into the sewers to like turn off the valves, and it's like they like to go off and the Geiger counters are going. I'm like, my hands are sweating like just watching it. It's so hard to watch. So one thing you do on the side, so you make amazing art on the side, like you work for one of the biggest studios on the planet, and then you make really cool side projects. You win in art station challenges on the side. You also do photography. You're pretty good at photography. Like, where did that come from? Like, was it something you've always been interested in? Like, what made you pick up a camera and go, actually, I want to get into this? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I was always eyeing photography, and my dad does a lot of photography too. So I think that's where it came from initially. And then I never bought a camera myself. But then last year I was like, okay, let's do this. Then I bought a camera, and then I just practiced, go outside, take photos and stuff. And I think I also already learned a lot from photography and bring into my my own scenes and stuff I do at work. Yeah.
What issues did you said when you went out and practiced? What like roadblocks did you run into?
The roadblocks I ran into.
Yeah, like what issues did you find like when you were first getting in?
The fact that you cannot change the weather. That was a big one. makes total sense, but you don't think about it when you buy a camera. Like, yeah, it's going to go out and take photos, but when it's midday sun, the photos just don't come out as good as when it's the golden hour, for instance.
Right, the peak photography for me is nighttime, rain. I'm super happy. There's a bit of advice someone gave. I think I can't remember if it was you actually, or it might have been Karen, but it was not using a prime lens and not a variable, because like that was the hardest thing for me, because I started on a prime. It's like I kept like wanting to zoom in, and I'm like, oh shit, I've got to move, and I was like having to run backwards and forwards trying to find the depth I wanted. I think that was something that was very like hard to get used to when you've worked in an engine your whole life. Because you can just tweak everything, and it's like, oh no. Yeah. The world ain't moving. You don't get to fake anything. You just need to find the angle, and you have to get in position. I found that to be incredibly odd, but also really fun. Like not having that complete freedom, but you had to work around what was there. I think that was really fun about photography. Yeah,
and I think that's also maybe more rewarding that way.
Yes,
because I never thought that to look at your own photos that I had the same feeling I have as looking at my portfolio. Because I don't know how you say that, because when you look at a scene on my portfolio, you can see all the work that went into it. Not so much on a photograph, but still it has the same feeling to me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just I made that kind of feeling.
I find it's made photography. It made me appreciate photography more. Like I see, when you see like a Peter McKinnon or anyone like that, and you go, oh wow, like they're really incredible, and like you go, this is a photograph, but like just their ability to like frame a shot on, like they're walking down the street and it's like they get a beautiful shot, and you're like,
yeah,
I have the exact same equipment and like I should be able to do that, but they can do it, and I'm like, fuck, like it's that thing into this, like it's easy to get to 80% quality, but that last 20% is so hard to nail down. You see the masters like Peter McKinnon and his, Dr. Hines, he's great, like on Instagram. I learned a lot from that guy. Like, anyone who's like interested in photography, go follow his account, because he answers like loads of questions in his stories and like dissects his own work. Professor Hines, he's or Dr. Hines. Is it doctor or professor?
I think it's Professor Hines.
Professor Hines. Yeah. Follow him. He's great.
Yeah, he's good.
But I mean, like, did you find that your photography helped? So you said it helped you with your own work, your 3D work. How did that translate?
I think in composition first, with getting the foreground, midground, background stuff. I never really looked at it that way until I did photography, because then you get to practice that kind of stuff a lot. And you really have to change the camera. You cannot change the world, which you already said. Yeah. So that really helped. And also in terms of lighting, because when you edit your own photos, you really get to take a long look at the lighting in the photos and see what works, what doesn't work. And you can bring that into your own scenes.
I think something that's been quite nice as well is like, and it sort of goes hand in hand with composition, but just how much difference like focal length can make. Like, because I think to a lot of people, when they mess with it in Unreal, they see it as just a zoom, like to zoom in and out. And it's like, I was talking to Ben Wilson. It's like we were looking at one of his personal projects, and it's like, oh yeah, here's like your exact same camera angle, like distance, but with like a low focal length and a high focal length. And I was like, look how much like mood you get in there when you have a low focal length. There's like, it could be more than just a zoom. I never appreciated any of that before, like going into photography, and I was like, it's so interesting. I'm like, oh, that's why everything warps when I'm like, I put a focal length at like 2. It's very.
That's also when I got to understand it, how it works with f-stops and stuff.
Yes,
then you can really see it in action in your camera, and then the same buttons are there in a real. Better understanding of it.
It's nice as well because the two sets of knowledge marries up quite nicely, because you literally can like set the cine camera in Unreal to like operate in ISOs and shutter speeds and that sort of stuff, and you literally just go, all right, like this space, I'll take some portfolio shots for Godfall, and it's like, oh, okay, like I'm in this space, or I probably want I want to get like a really cinematic shot, so I'll have like a 20mm lens, and I'll like it's quite bright, so I just want to bring the values to a mid range, and then boost it with like the aperture, and I'm like, this is what I do with real photography. Like, this is actually translating 1-to-1. It's the exact same, and like when you treat it like that, I'm like, this is so much more fun.
Yeah.
I hate rendering. Rendering for me in any project, I hate rendering. Like, it's such a chore to me. Like, but
you mean taking the screenshots and stuff?
All of that sort of stuff. Taking screenshots, like it used to be such a chore.
Oh,
but now I love it. Now I love it. Yeah, it's a game. Now it's like, oh, I can make this like 20% better if I like get really like juicy camera angles.
Get the depth of field in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can also like, I guess Unreal's quite nice because you can break focal length quite. So like, for example, on one of the Godfall shots, I set the focal length to like 3, and I had like a spiral staircase, and it warped the whole staircase so you could see all of it. And I love it. It was a really cool shot. But I'm like, I could never get that in real life, but like, it was a really interesting shot.
Yeah.
Well, so, and again, we're going to deviate back to portfolios. So, you said, you know, you do treat like the projects as a learning opportunity. What is it like? What direction is it you're trying to learn and develop in? Because like I said, early on in our careers, it's very obvious. It's like, I want to be an environment artist. Here's my key skill sets. Mm-hmm. What is giving you your direction? Like, what's making you go, I want to develop in this direction or that direction? Like, where's the where is it you want to go with it? Like, is it just kind of, I just want to be better in general at producing art? Like, which side of the coin do you fall on?
I think different aspects of environment art. So right now I'm learning to do more high quality foliage, for instance. Mm-hmm. I never did that in any production setting or for my own portfolio. So that's definitely a lot of fun to learn now. Uh-huh. And also, like I said in the beginning, you can be your own tech artist. So learning different workflows and setting up your own shaders and stuff like that.
It's definitely interesting, the foliage side of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I feel like there's a lot of environment artists out there at the moment. A lot of friends are doing the same. Where it's like the basic skills of like environment art, they've gone down to a T. They're like really good at it. They know how to texture, they know how to do trim sheets, tilables, build a scene. And the one thing which I think a lot of environment artists kind of skimp out on is foliage. It's like, it's that thing which we're a little bit scared of. I know I am. I know it's what I've always lent away from, because I'm like, I don't want to do foliage. So it's like,
also because there's mega scans, it's like, I don't need to do this.
Yeah, exactly. But seeing both yourself and some of my friends produce foliage, I'm like, I prefer that to the mega scans. Like, even though that's hand authored, it looks better. Like, I've grown to like, I find mega scans or scans data in general, I'm like, out of the box, I just don't like it. It's so noisy. Where seeing people like process it and do stuff with it, I'm like, okay, now you've caught my interest. Yeah. But it has been something I've been scared of like for a long time. Like, you don't want to touch foliage. It's difficult. So like, was that one of the big motivators behind these recent projects then? You're like, I want to get that monkey off my back. I want to tackle some foliage and like really get comfortable in that sense.
Yeah, because looking at my portfolio, all the other projects never really made an outside scene, like an exterior scene, like a bigger one. Mm-hmm. And to make that, you need some foliage, I think. So that was the biggest motivator to make, just buy the bullet and make it. Because I also want to put it on the marketplace. And in order to put it there, I needed to make my own stuff. Cannot use mega scans for that.
To be fair,
that is the biggest motivator. And then I actually liked doing it too. So that was nice.
I mean, that's a fair motivator, though, man. Like, you just go, oh, I want to sell this, but I can't. Like, all right, well, yeah. I mean, I know that's been a pain for with me with my material stuff. I want to give it all away, and I'm like, okay, like, you need to go and buy these nodes in order to to use this material. And it's maybe like, maybe I should start making my own nodes just so that I can give shit away without having to say, okay, here's this thing for free. However, I need to go buy like these free nodes in order for the graph to work. It makes you far more autonomous and able to do stuff. Yeah. So you've tackled foliage. Like, what's the next thing?
I'm still working on the foliage. This summer I'm planning to take a lot of photos of leaves and stuff and grass. I already started doing that. I just take my camera everywhere, and instead of taking photos for Instagram, and I also take photos of leaves and grass and trees and stuff to create a bigger library of footage.
I mean, that's to be fair, that's pretty fair. Like, I can't do photography right now. I'm like, I want to, but I really like nighttime photography. I don't like daytime that much, and I'm like, it doesn't start getting dark here until like 9:30, 10.
Same here, man.
And I'm like, oh, I guess. I mean, some of my friends have been like, you're not into photography that much anymore. And I'm like, I am, but I really like nighttime photography. I'm like, maybe I should go like, what country is it where like it's dark? It could be dark all year round. Oh no, it's light all year round, I think.
Yeah.
I just see it's always dark.
And it's in the winter, it's dark for a long time. But it's also in the summer now. I think the sun goes on around 10:30, 11 maybe.
Oh, mate.
It's pitch black, and I don't think it's ever gets pitch black right now.
Yeah, it stays almost a golden hour for a long time.
Yeah, that's weird, which is nice for photography, only it's very late in the evening.
Yeah, and who wants to go walk around at 11 o'clock at night with their camera equipment? Not me.
Exactly. No.
I mean, the guys always laugh at me when I say this. If people will say for the camera quick, because I got one of them wrist. You suggested to me, what were they called? The company, the
Peak Design.
Peak Design. I've got some of their wrist things, and I'm like, in fact, I've said the guys are gonna laugh if they hear this, but it's like the only thing that's a reassurance is them cameras are a weapon. Like they're heavy and they have some very blunt corners. I'm like, if someone tried to take that off my wrist, it's not coming off because it's attached. No. You hit someone with that, like
they go down.
They're going down. So it makes me feel a little bit safer. Like I've just got into skateboarding recently, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is also a really good weapon. I'm like, I've got to stop thinking of things as weapons, but yeah, self-defense. Yeah, I've got my camera if I need to hit someone with it. I've got my skateboard if I need to hit someone with it. That's how I think about things now. I'm like, I'm getting old. I need to like look after myself and all that sort of shit. So I'm like, yeah, cameras, good weapons. If anyone's worried about going out at night, like, you're safe.
Yeah, I never looked at my camera that way.
Okay, this might be a me problem then. The guys are right. I've got issues, dude. Honestly, I was holding the camera and I was just like playing with it with my hands while I was cleaning it, and I was like, the corner under the battery. I'm like, that hurt. That hurts.
Yeah, or the lens, maybe if you have a sturdy lens.
I mean, I have I have a Sigma 35, which is a big ass lens, like for 35mm. But I wouldn't want to hit anyone with the lens of the expensive bit, man. You don't want to hit anyone with that. That's like true. The camera body, like I can fix or replace that. Like,
yeah,
it's actually does how because you're the same boat as me. Obviously, our full-time gigs is 3D art. Do you look at camera equipment and you're like, oh, that'd be really nice? Like, there's a really nice Sigma 120mm lens, 1.2, and I'm like, that's a beautiful lens. It's nearly $2,000. I'm not going to get that. Do you look at camera equipment too and you're like, I'd love to get that, but this is a side hobby. I don't need this equipment. Like, do you find yourself just browsing, having a look?
Yeah, that happens. But I shouldn't do that too often because then I cannot buy it.
What lenses are you actually? What lenses do you use?
Oh, right now, I only use two: the 35 1.8 and the 85 1.8. So both prime lenses.
35 and 85, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I got 35 and 85. It's one's a Sigma and one's a Sony. Yeah, I love them. I prefer the 85 in the moment. It's easier to get like good shots. Well, like Canon shots of people where like they're because you're a bit further away, so no one can really no one notices you as much. So you can get some like photos of people with like because the 35mm you have to get quite close. I find. Yeah. I don't like that so much. Yeah. So if you
feel like with
go on
with the 85, I think you can get more interesting shots because the 35 is seen as the standard focal length.
Yeah.
And if you come with an 85, it's not seen as often, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
It makes it more interesting.
I thought 50 was the middle.
Yeah, 50 is 35, maybe both of them. But 85, you don't see that often, I think.
Oh, nice.
I think it's easier to make compositions in 85.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's that nice middle ground, right? Where like you can get some of the stuff a little bit further away, but it's still compressed enough and like to get like some nice wide-ish shots. So if you were to like pick the next lens, if you could have any lens next, like what focal range would you go for?
Any lens?
Yeah.
I think I would go for there's the Sony lens, the 70 to 200.
Ah, the grey one.
Yeah, the big gray one.
Yeah, I know the one. One of my friends was talking about that. I do like that lens, but I wouldn't be. There's like this Sigma 120 where the lens is huge, like it's massive.
Oh, that one, yeah.
And I love that lens.
Yeah, I've been eyeing that one too, yeah. But that one is also pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's like, this is a hobby. Hobbies shouldn't cost this much. Hey, who knows? Maybe you sell like your next thing on a marketplace and like make hundreds of thousands, so you can buy yourself as many lenses as you want. That's the game, right? Like all your marketplace money goes towards buying camera equipment. Is that what you do?
No, not yet.
Soon.
Maybe that's the plan. Soon, basically.
Dude, that's a justification. It's like, hey, this is money. This isn't the paycheck money from like my full-time gig. This is money I made on the side, so I'm gonna use it on my side hobby. And you can do some mental gymnastics to justify that shit to yourself.
Yeah. I definitely did that with the camera. Buying it.
Oh, mate. Facebook. We got. I got my camera from, and I also bought Charlotte. So I got an A7 II, and I bought Charlotte an A7 I. But both of them, like off Facebook Marketplace, like there's some really good deals on there, like where people are selling their equipment. Because, like, I mean, the A7 II is like a 10-year-old camera at this point, like nearly 10 years old. Still super good, but like you got what's the one which there was the A7 III, the A7 IV, and the Alpha, the A7 Alpha, which just came out.
Alpha 1 now.
Alpha 1, that's it. So I'm like,
that's expensive one.
It's really hot. It was funny seeing like all the YouTubers, photographers like taking kind of getting a Centrum to play with, and they're being super careful. Like, okay, like even though I'm a full-time YouTuber photographer, I can't afford to drop this camera, so like I'm gonna be super careful. It's a nice camera though, but I can't. I mean, in pounds, it's like $4,500 in British pounds. So I don't know what that is in Swedish krona. Like,
I think around 60,000 Swedish krona then.
Oh my god!
Correct.
Oh, that's horrible. Well, I mean, what will happen is whenever we do next Malmo meetup, if you get one, you'll let me have a go on it. Like, if you ever decide to. Yeah, I can. Just do it. Like you pay up for it. Like you pay for the camera, and I'll just have a little play on it when I come up. Like,
I pay for my marketplace income, and you can play with it.
Dude, that's gonna be great. I mean, I think that's probably something we're gonna see each other, really, isn't it? Like, it's in fact that's when we'll first meet. It'll be the Malmo meetup for Dynasty, or whenever that happens.
Yeah,
the world slowly opens up.
Yeah, I think I will be there. Yeah, for sure.
Good shit. Well, I mean, it's been. I appreciate you coming on because I know it's end of your workday for you is late, and it's a weird time. So I really appreciate taking the time to come on, and I really do look forward to come in and do some photography with you, because I think that's what I plan to do. Is whenever we do meet up in Sweden, it'll be I'll bring my camera and shit, and like on top of the meetup, be good to go do some street walks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Okay, so as usual, to everyone who's listening, you do the usual: like, follow, share, subscribe. The more you share it, the more that helps really great people like Maarten get their information out there. But dude, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll catch everyone next week.